An iron curtain of media censorship, of total surveillance is descending across the Western world. A small coterie of private Federal Reserve Group banks has imploded Europe. It is now imploding the United States. The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and others admit the U.S. and Europe are in a double-dip recession. It's actually a depression. Remember, we were pessimist porn dealers years ago explaining that we were in a depression, at least a double-dip recession that we never even came out of, and that it was being done by design. We've been proving it right again. Coming up, bill allows IRS to revoke Second Amendment rights by stealth. And we have the subsection. It just gives the total dictatorial right to take gun permits away, to block you at the NICS when you buy a gun through a gun shop, or to revoke your ownership and, I guess, dispatch. It just gives them carte blanche on page 1323 of the Transportation Legislation 21 map. Continuing, Bank of America has a war on the Second Amendment, telling major gun manufacturers they're closing their accounts because they do not believe in the civilian ownership of firearms under the UN treaty that Obama is openly now saying if reelected, he will try to implement, even if Congress won't ratify. The banks are already going with it. And, of course, they are. The Bank of America is part of the Federal Reserve. It's part of the coup d'etat. Unbelievable information. And, yes, one of the top stories in the country right now, the Department of Defense and Homeland Security, with their new Enviro Corps, this is in the new Rural Commission that Obama set up last year, it's in there, are now going to do spot inspections, and if children are found doing any chores on farms, touching any raw materials, grains, seeds, eggs, milking cows, learning how to be on a farm. They're killing what's left. 2% of our population is original farms. Small farms. 2% of our population lives on small farms. They produce a small amount of our food now. It's Big Agri taking over. Big Agri is financing this. This is so devastating. This is directly out of what Stalin did in the Ukraine. And it's a big wake-up call to people. They're talking about $2,000 fines for dust from hay. But Big Agri is exempt. Total takeover. Total tyranny. Arrested, Amish being arrested for selling lemonade all over the country. Flea markets, Homeland Security raiding them. $15 million fines for garage sales. I'm not joking. That's AP, Fox News. I mean, just total bureaucratic hell. This is the new economy. The big mega corporations and banks want America shut down so we fully implode, so they can buy it up, get everybody on welfare, everybody working for a mega corporation or government. This is the New World Order. And this has always been their plan. Jim Tucker, author of the Bilderberg Diary, 36 years covering Bilderberg, forcing it out in the news. I wanted to get you on about the Washington Post last week, who, as you've pointed out, always attends every year and never reports on it, admitting Bilderberg's real and admitting that they basically vet vice presidents like a Rubio. Incredible on that front, but of course the big news, sir, Infowars.com. And this is what intel sources like Gosling, who's been accurate in the past, are saying. They have shut it down for the 3 days in May 31st to the 3rd, so 4 days of June. The Chantilly, Virginia, where you and I were there, where Obama was knighted supreme leader and Hillary stepped down, and the media wouldn't cover it. We were there. Secretive Bilderberg group set to meet in Virginia, May 31st, June 3rd. Jim Tucker of AmericanFreePress.net joins us and to tell us if his intel can either confirm or deny this situation. Let's cover that first. Jim, you're there in Virginia. You're there in D.C. or close by. You work there at the paper that's in D.C. What is your intel, Jim Tucker?
I am 99% sure that the meeting will be, as you said, May 31, June 3, at the Westfields Marriott, where they met just 3 years ago. Tony Gosling and others have... I think it was Tony Gosling who tried to make a reservation for just one person, just one, and he said he's from Europe. They understood that from his telephone call, of course, and he'd like to visit Washington and stay at the Westfields on any weekend in May or June. But he had trouble getting reservations for one, and their answer was they're all filled up May 31 to June the 3rd. They can't even take one more reservation for those dates. But every other weekend is okay. That and other information coming together makes me 99% sure. The reason I say 99 is because we've been unable to get our certain congressman who had been friendly before and would find out for us to confirm 100%. But it's time for our colleagues in Europe and the 200 from the United States, individual independent newspapers, independent broadcast outlets, to grab their other a pair of socks and head to Chantilly, because 99% odds are very heavy odds, and I'll be very surprised if we don't find them at Chantilly. So let's get packed and start moving.
Well, Jim, didn't they meet almost 4 years ago? It'll be 4 years this June on the campaign trail there. Hillary and Obama disappeared for a day. We saw the Secret Service, the motorcades. We knew they were there. Your sources confirmed it. But the media wouldn't cover it. That shows how controlled they are. And I want to get into that in a moment. But didn't they meet there in 2002 and then again in 2008? So they've met at that hotel twice, haven't they?
I think so. I have to pull out my book and double check on it. But they definitely met there. I think it was after Obama was president-elect, and after he'd won the election, but before the swearing in. No?
Yes. No, it was, sure. It was right before that. It was whenever Hillary stepped down. She stepped down there at Bilderberg, so you're right. But, Jim, going back here, because I believe they were also there a few years before that, they do come here every 4 years. It's generally in Virginia. It's close to the airport there. You and I, of course, were there 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years ago this June. I will be there. But aren't we learning of its location a little bit earlier this year than we normally do?
It's run the deal. There's times when I found out in January and February when they're going to meet. And there's one notable occasion where we desperately could not find them, and I got a call from the American Free Press saying, "Grab your other pair of socks and get packed your own. You're flying to France today." They'd already made the flights for me and all that stuff. They just found out just in time. It got that close once, so it's been all variations in between. And then old sources start to die, and then we have to find new sources. So that complicates the whole issue, too. But as I say, 99% are very good odds, so we better get there. And I was interested in your comments about the big farmers and taking over, and you're absolutely correct. That's why Archer Daniels Midland has had executives at his Bilderberg meetings for years and years and years. And that it does fit their program to equalize the economies of the world. The developed nations, that they call prosperous nations, should pour money at undeveloped nations, that they call poor nations, all these euphemisms. And our standard of living should go down. The third world standard of living should go up until we're all equally on a median standard of living throughout the world. That's their goal.
Well, what they really mean is pour our tax money into their companies in the third world and actually use it to enslave those people. The cover is they want to raise them up and lower us, but as the Copenhagen document showed 2.5 years ago, it was actually right at double the carbon taxes on the third world that it would be on the West. So they use that as their cover, but it's far more diabolical. What do you make of $20+ billion to General Motors to move the Cadillac and Volt plants to China that's now been announced?
I don't think I can express myself in a way that would suit polite society, I'll just say I'm outraged.
Unbelievable treason. Sir, what do you make of the Washington Post last week coming out? I mean, the significance of this, that you've always pointed out, they run defense and offense for Bilderberg, being the chosen media for 60 years to be at Bilderberg, to have them come out and go, yeah, Bilderberg pretty much picks vice presidents and presidents. Yeah, Rubio's going down to Columbia so he can up his cred for the Bilderberg meeting coming up for VP with Romney. I mean, that is amazing. What does that signify?
I'm going to find out tomorrow. The reason I say this, my home is actually 70 miles out in Orange County, Virginia, from Washington. And I work mostly from my home, emailing and that kind of jazz. I'm in Arlington today because of the speech I have to make in Memphis tomorrow. But I have to fly to Memphis tomorrow. But I get what they call their Bulldog edition printed early. And this is another old trick of theirs to cram a little story into the very last edition. So they say, we did too cover it. Here's a clipping. We did too mention Bilderberg. So when I go down to the press club tomorrow, where in addition to a bar, they really and truly have a library at the press club, and they have some magic they can play, because I can go and say, I want the biggest search possible for any newspaper to use the term trilateral commission or Bilderberg, say from April 1st until the present moment. And they've got this big giant gizmo, the smallest weekly, biggest daily, the periodicals, the broadcast outlets, all that stuff.
No, I understand that you're not an internet guy, so you haven't read the full Washington Post yet. Let me give it to you. It's last week. It's Al Kamen. I got a fitting name, little crocodile, the New World Order. And it says, in the loop, shout at a dictator, get some VP cred. And then it goes on in the article to say, yeah, Bilderberg picks presidents and VPs, and looks like a Rubio, he's the only senator going down to the meeting. And he says the little bird told him it's for Bilderberg to try to up his cred. So that's right there in the article. You can scroll down and read it. So again,
what date was that?
Guys, scroll back up to the top so I can give Jim the date. Thank you. Again, we're showing this to prisonplanet.tv viewers. Just shrink it down, guys. You can just give me the date. Thank you. I'll give you the date here in just a second, Jim.
Okay.
Or guys, just print it for me. April 11th. April 11th.
April 11th. Okay, I'll read that tomorrow when I get to the press club. I'll make sure that's one. I would have gotten it anyway, but I'll make sure I get it.
I mean, what do you make of that, though? I just read it to you. Why would they go from saying it didn't exist and you were insane, and New York Times said it didn't exist and that we were there 4 years ago? The New York Times said, I was there at Chantilly with you, literally hallucinating in a park, and that there was no helicopters, Marines in plain clothes, Secret Service, machine guns. We've got it all on tape. Foreign leaders with their national anthem being played. It didn't exist, Jim.
Oh, we just had a mirage.
Yeah, we're insane. Mm-hmm.
But now the Post can forever say we did too write a report on Bilderberg. They've done that on a number of other stories they don't like over the years. I sneak something in the very last edition, and maybe not even the whole last edition, what they call chasing it. And
but look at the condescension, saying it doesn't exist while the editor... Tell folks about the Washington Post and the connection to Bilderberg.
Well, the Washington Post was involved in the establishing Bilderberg in 1954. Now, these bankers and international financiers and politicians had been meeting for 4 centuries. But then they decided we've got to meet regularly every year and on a regular basis, regular time. And so they impulsively called themselves Bilderberg, because that meeting was big, where they decided to do that was held at the Bilderberg Hotel, hotel called Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek, Switzerland. So since then, old man Graham, the original Philip Graham, was at that meeting. He shot himself in his bathtub a few years later, and then Mrs. Graham came out of the kitchen, literally, as a housewife, and became publisher. well, they have such a big staff, at least they did then, that anybody's little sister could be publisher because she had that big, heavy executive staff that can actually run the newspaper. So she attended. Then she started taking her little boy, Donald Graham, with her. And then she decided to die, and Donald Graham has attended every meeting since then. Never misses a meeting, but never reports on it either. We've identified him photographically at every meeting they've had.
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm coming up there in my InfoWars bus, and I want people to join me along the way, and I want 10,000 people there at this event. I want 10,000 people there. This is the real group to protest. When they have their public G20 meetings, they shut down Chicago, they shut down everything. We're Americans. We're going to go protest the parasites who, as you've said, Jim, want to bankrupt everybody, so we're so poor we can't even protest them.
Yes, they'll have a heavy debates on European Union this year, well, as usual have every year, on the Europeans' economic problems, demanding more money from the United States, and Obama will pretend he's not going to do it, then he'll do it. As far as throwing money at Europe is
absolutely concerned. Stay there. One more segment with Jim Tucker, and then he's got to go. And then I can't tell you how much I look forward to shaking Jim Tucker's hand again. Maybe having a nice cold brew with him at the bar. He is a real piece of work, a true character, a true patriot, and we love him. AmericanFreePress.net. And I am going. I mean, we're going to keep our intel on this. We'll know for sure soon. But I'm, like you said, 99% that it's in Chantilly where they've met twice before. I'm going to be there. The annex you see in the Obama deception, I'm sure will be replayed. And the feds don't need to have people break in our rooms or do anything to us or try to get us to commit acts of violence. We're planning to peacefully cover the event and destroy the Bilderberg group with info weapons. The pen is mightier than the sword. And I'm on the defense. I want my country back. I don't want to be usurped. I want farm kids to be able to do chores with their parents. Because they're saying they want to ban chores in the house and have kids go to the state and divorce the parents. This is the end of parental rights. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. Jim, you grew up on a cotton farm, didn't you?
Yes, I'm a certified redneck. Uppercase R.
You pick cotton with your hands. And
yeah, but what comes to mind now, it is so important that Obama not have another 4 years uninhibited because he'll not have to run again to ruin this country. The boy is a self-avowed communist. He called himself a communist until he's 40 years old. But he announced for the state senate he had these screwballs who had been actually killing people and burning down cities and calling themselves communists. In Washington, they shot and killed a few people during the riots.
It's worse than that. It's in the New York Times. He says, I can't wait to get reelected. That's the headline. I'm going to be a dictator and use executive orders and bypass Congress. He said, I can't wait to get reelected and, quote, bypass Congress. I mean, it's really happening, Jim.
Yes, and this country's going to be in very bad shape as that self-avowed communist. He's not calling himself a communist for under political pressures, bad politics, but he was in his 40s when they were still gathered around him. And he tried to appoint some of them to the government positions, and then the adults around him, although left-wing Democrats, say you don't dare do that. So,
but again, the mega bankers want communism to suck out our wealth. They're exempt from the taxes. Like GE, they transfer it overseas. That's the New Order plan. Jim, we've only got 2 minutes left. Any new intel on Bilderberg this year and what's on their agenda?
Well, heavily, of course, the economic crisis, and they're going to have problems with Britain. Now, we can't always say great things about Britain. But in this case, starting with Lady Thatcher, they refused to give up the pound in favor of the euro because Lady Thatcher said she attended one meeting back when she was prime minister, and as and she refused. She had nothing to say, and they never invited her back. And then they got a trapeze artist from her own party to run against her and defeat her for the job of prime minister. They're that powerful. But I had the pleasure of talking to her informally at a cocktail party at the Press Club about a year later, and I asked her reaction to being denounced by Bilderberg, and she said, she used the word tribute. This is a rough paraphrase, but she said, I consider it tribute to be denounced by Bilderberg, any organization that was take away 1 ounce of sovereignty. We are all far allies. We're part of NATO and other allies. We do not surrender 1 bit of sovereignty to a world government. Not 1 bit.
Amazing. Jim Tucker, we're going to be seeing you in person in Virginia for Bilderberg 2012. I'll be there, and we'll talk to you before then. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Goodbye.